Hey, so this is the follow-up video to the unboxing of the Oasis Mini. This time I'm going to talk about the app, the Oasis Mini app. So this is actually meant, I guess it's really meant for the developers to feedback to them. If the general public gets something out of it too, well, that's even better. But mostly it's meant to be feedback to the developers because I was selected to be lucky enough to be a beta tester for the Oasis Mini. It's really cool. This is a design I did. It's actually two designs. The spirally thing in the background is one design, and then it just drew the flower on top of it, and together it makes a pretty cool look. But anyway, so I've pulled up the app here on the iPad. I've played with it a little bit more than I had when I made the last video, so I'm a bit more familiar with the app than I was then. I still have the sniffles, so allergies are still kicking my butt, so we're gonna have sniffles throughout the video. So be it. First thing I want to mention on the app is this kind of looks sort of dull and boring. Is there a way to put branding and logo and things on here, like a big bold logo that says Oasis Mini or the name of the company, or maybe even a link to where to go buy an Oasis Mini? So put some branding on there. This is the very opening splash screen when I close the app and you launch, and that's the very opening screen. There should be something there that tells us what we're interfacing with. There's nothing here that says Oasis or tells us what the app is or what it does. So put some branding on there. That would be a good thing. Maybe a web page link. Maybe even, there's plenty of space here. Why not even put a picture of something like this on the app so that when you open the app, you can kind of get inspired and think, hey, this is a cool thing I would like to play with, or maybe go buy one. So that's a thing. Also, I noticed that if you don't have an Oasis, or if this is unplugged or whatever, there's really no way to proceed on the app at all. There's nothing to do. Of course, the app and the hardware kind of are intended to go hand in hand, but it might be a handy thing, maybe a thing to consider, but not a hard requirement, is to find some way to interact with the app, maybe even as much as a simulator, that if someone downloads the app and wants to play with it before they've bought the Oasis, that maybe they can do some kind of an on-screen simulator to learn what it can do, and then provide tons of links. So maybe the person would want to go out and buy the Oasis. So yeah, so put some way on there for a user to interact with the opening screen other than just simply connecting. At the bottom also, it has add new device, which is basically descriptive, but why not change that to add new Oasis or connect to Oasis? Yet another opportunity for branding, to put the brand front and center in front of the user and to get your name out there. So that might be a thing that's worth considering. There doesn't also, I haven't found it, or maybe it doesn't exist. There does not appear to be a way to disconnect. There is obviously a way to connect there. I don't know of a way. I haven't found a way to disconnect from the device. I also don't know if there's ever a need to, but maybe if there's two different ones, if a person has two Oasis Minis, they might want to connect to one and make a drawing, connect to the next one and make a drawing. I'm not sure. If there is a need to disconnect from one, how do you do it? So that might be something to consider. Maybe there's no need to disconnect. I'm not sure. But back in your testing lab, maybe you got 4 or 5 of them set up, and you might want to switch between them. Who knows? So something to do is there a reason to disconnect, and how is that done? Also, the app could potentially detect if this is the first time that a user has used the app. If so, all throughout the app, you could put screen tips, or I guess in the computer days, they were called mouse over text. It's no mouse, of course, on an iPad or on a phone, but the screen tip text to help people learn how to interact with the thing. I want to talk also a little bit about a term called in design parlance, in designing any product, whether it's software or hardware, a term called an affordance. Affordance, it's a weird word. It doesn't really have, weirdly enough, ironically enough, the term affordance doesn't really tell you what it is. But the term affordance is a term that is used in designing to mean how do you interact with something. If there is a knob or a button or a spinny thing on a device or a handle, that's how you interact with something. And affordance is the way you interact with something. And it's a design feature. There might be a few cases where you might want the affordances to be somewhat hidden. I'm thinking like a child safety lock on a kitchen cabinet. Maybe you don't want it to be obvious for the kid to know how to open the door because of safety reasons. But generally, affordances should be obvious, intuitive, and very quick to understand and learn how to navigate the affordances. I just happened to go in my garage a little bit ago and found a rather obscure tool that I've known how to use for forever, but maybe someone has never used this tool. This has a couple of affordances on it, just as an example. Even if you don't know what this is, you would probably pretty quickly guess that this is the handle. This part here is the handle. And you would probably pretty quickly realize that that's not the way to hold it, right? So the shape of it, the design of it, provides affordances that make it obvious and intuitive that this is probably the handle and it's probably meant to be held that way. So even if you don't know what this thing is, it's a glass cutter, by the way. Even if you don't know what this is, it's very obvious how to use it. It has obvious and intuitive affordances. So that's a handle. Your fingers probably go there. Even if you don't know what it does, you probably can grip it and grab it correctly. This little gizmo, it's got like knurled edges that look like grips, and it's round, so it's probably pretty obvious that that's something you twist. Even if you don't know what it does, you probably would know that that's an affordance that can be twisted and turned. That's where you put the oil and the cutting oil for the glass. But again, if someone is not familiar with this, there's a couple of things here that are very obvious that teach you how to use the device. So that's an example of hardware affordances. Software has it too. So all the buttons on software should be obvious, and now my software turned off. So affordances are just a general design term that is used to remind the designers to make things that are intuitive and obvious and consistent. So we'll get into more of that as we go on. Let's see, I've got a list off camera, so I'm referring every few seconds up to my list. After connecting to the Oasis, like here we'll connect. The software is available. Let's just do the thing here. I noticed that there is a small logo here, and when we get to the next screen, the logo that is up there on the next screen is different. Again, branding and being consistent with branding is important. So whatever the logo is here and the logo on the next screen should be consistent. It should be the same one. I'm now really interested to see if the software update, I don't know if that's firmware for here or if it's actually updating the app. I suspect that the way that's looking, it's updating here. But I was wondering if any of the updates are actually going to be some of the things on my list, which would be kind of crazy that I suggest things and the app already has them. Who knows? So we'll see how long this takes. So yeah, the logo up here and the logo on the next page is different. Why? They should be the exact same logo for the company, for the product. And let's see. I guess we'll just wait for this to update. I noticed also there's a few spots here and on the next page where the text is really small. It's not like tiny, not impossible to read, but there's plenty of screen space. Make it easy for the old geezers who need glasses. I'm one of those, by the way. So make it easy and make bigger font. There's plenty of room on the screen. So yeah, so make the fonts bigger. I'm just gonna hang out here while this updates, and we'll probably edit out these few seconds. So stand by when the update gets done. We'll get back in with my list. I do see that the line is kind of progress barring around, so that's a good thing. Maybe it's about to be done, updated. All right, it just finished, which unfortunately means it's going to erase my drawing. Oh darn. I guess I'll have to draw it again. It'd be interesting to see if the changes nullify some of the suggestions I had. One thing that is on my list we can talk about now while it's drawing is this notification bar just kind of completely overlays the screen and kills the thing, which maybe is on purpose. You don't want someone fiddling around with the app while it's updating. But one idea I had is that put like a permanent progress bar, or not a progress bar, but a status bar up here somewhere or down here that tells exactly what the device is doing at this moment. Is it maybe device not connected? Is the drawing complete? Is it actively drawing? Is it initializing like it seemed to have just done there a few seconds ago? So some status field that tells what the device is doing right now. That kind of goes hand in hand with affordances, where make it obvious to the user what is happening and also how to use the device. So that's the affordance, but also make it obvious to the user what is happening at any given moment. There's nothing worse than just a machine doing something and you don't really know what it's doing or when it's going to stop or how long it's going to take. So now I think it's done, but I'm not sure. I guess this window went away, so I suppose it's done. Let's see, let's go back to the previous screen and connect. I'm looking at that logo. Oh, look, the logos are now the same. I'm almost certain those were not the same before. So, oh, there it is. So that's what it is. The settings menu has a different logo. I thought for sure in this one it was different as well, but wherever those logo things exist, make them consistent, make them obvious and bright. This one's actually kind of dull. It's hard to tell that that's actually the Oasis logo. Make the logo bigger, bolder, obvious. Make it look like it's a true branding effort. So yeah, that's one thing. On the unboxing video, this play button is a very good affordance. We know what a play button looks like. It looks like an arrow pointing to the right. That's actually a reasonable affordance. I just missed it somehow. It's just a goofball. I missed it. But so I don't know if that really is a design problem or if I just had an off day. But that one's actually reasonably good. Maybe some text over it that says play or something, but that one I really can't pick on that one too much, even though I completely missed it on the unboxing video. But yeah, so I don't know what to make of that one. That might be my fault, or maybe there is some improvement to be had with that play button. This screen is also another good screen to have for text over, whatever they call it, screen tips. I kind of fumbled around on this the first time I used it. I didn't quite know what to do or how to use it. So screen tips here, kind of a how-to guide, might be handy. That would be a thing to help a first-time user. And maybe that goes away after the first or second time using the app, or maybe the user goes to the settings and disables screen tips, but leaves it up for a while. Excuse me. Another instance of an affordance is this 4 dots. When I see that on a web page or on an app, I generally think that's a slide interface, that I slide that and select colors or something. So the affordance that I have been trained over we've all been trained by using apps and using web pages, that generally is a slide thing that you would select, like by sliding and select colors. But in this case, it's a button. So maybe that needs to be improved to make it more obvious that that's a button and not a slide. So that's just an affordance that should be obvious and intuitive. Let's see. What is next on my list? The circular affordance on the color screen, which is this one. Usually when a app has a slidey thing like this, it's meant to be something like an analog, a volume knob, or an analog selection. But in this case, if you'll notice, I didn't notice this at first on the unboxing, but as you slide around, you're getting different modes of lighting. So this kind of affordance is typically used to select an analog variable, to change the analog setting. But in this case, it's a digital. So it just kind of seems to break what we typically know of interfaces that look like that. Excuse me. Perhaps another way to do that would be a series of radio buttons, or maybe even a drop down. Oh, look at it. I thought I said Siri.
I wasn't able.
But maybe a drop down menu where you can select the 8 or 10 different modes, whatever modes there are here. So hit a menu and it pops down and sees all of them all at once. The problem with drop downs is you actually have to click something and then you can see all of the selections. A series of radio buttons or radio selections here that where you just click one and it becomes an exclusive. You click that one, you can only click one of them. That would allow all the selections to be visible all at once. So a person wouldn't have to literally scroll through here, that solid, rainbow, glitter, confetti, all of those. I can't see all the options until I slide through them. Put them down here in a list with a radio button interface might be a handy improvement. And wow, Sparkle really goes crazy. Follow ball, let's leave it there. So that might be a thing we could do to make it more of an obvious affordance. Let's see. Change the lighting mode affordance. Let's see, removing it from the perimeter of the color chart. So another thing along with that, I'm reading my list off camera, so forgive me for not being continuous on telling the story. I'm taking a minute to review my notes. Changing the lighting mode affordance, removing it from the perimeter of the color chart would allow for the color chart to be made bigger and better fit the full screen. So if this black thing was gone, moved down here into a different function, this whole light chart or color chart could expand and get a bit more resolution on whatever color that the user would want. So you could make this 50 or maybe 80% bigger if this function was down here somewhere else. LED speed and brightness controls are good and obvious and intuitive. These are good affordances. We know what to do with slide bars. Those are totally good, but why not make them full screen? If you make them full screen, expand them out, there's plenty of screen room here. It would give your fingers that much more resolution. So a minor thing, but that would help. And it also would help just the aesthetic balance of the page. So either center them at the same size, but ideally make them bigger. And if this is made bigger full size, and these are made bigger full size, and you've got the selector for the modes down here full size, your page starts to look a lot more symmetrical, a lot more aesthetic. Let's see. Oh, another thing I noticed, when you launch the app, it asks the user to enable location. Wow, that green is getting really kind of wonky. I'm going to go to something less flashy. But the app asks the user to give the device location permissions for the app. And I'm not sure why. I can't possibly imagine that the location of this is a critical function for why it has to work. So if that's, we're all kind of leery now of data creep and data leaks and hacks and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm not sure why this needs your location. Is it purely for marketing, just to figure out what state these things are being used in? But that's probably something that you should just remove, because it just kind of builds distrust instead of making a good positive experience. I can't imagine why the location is needed. Maybe you can provide some insight on that. Let's see, next. The add track button seems to be just floating without a home. So let's go back here to this page. This add track button, if you remember on my unboxing video, I kind of didn't know how to use this at first. It didn't take long to figure out what to do, but at first it was weird. This add track button doesn't really have a home. It's just floating. No matter where in the screen I go, that's always there. Why not give it a permanent home somewhere? Add it up here, add it down, I don't know, wherever it needs to go, but something where it doesn't just sort of float aimlessly in the middle of the screen. Let's see, consider adding a status area. I mentioned that earlier. So a status up here that says things like initializing, drawing, completed, device not connected, device connected. Just a small text field that tells the user what's happening. Why is the device seemingly doing nothing, or why is the device humming and buzzing? Give some kind of a status to let the user know what's going on. During the unboxing video, there were several instances where I was just watching the Oasis Mini just do things, and I didn't quite understand what they were doing, or what it was doing, or why. Excuse me. So having a status field somewhere would help. Another thing that I figured out eventually, once you start drawing, what the heck, let's just make it draw. This is another instance where that status should be up here so it doesn't completely take over the screen. If you need to lock out functions while it's doing something, you can still put the status up here, but just have the rest of the software lock out the ability to interact. But a full-time status bar to tell what the device is doing is good. But I remember while drawing the first thing, it took me a while to figure out that this outer ring, which is similar to the outer ring on the other page, is actually the progress bar. But it's not obvious that that's a progress bar until it gets partly drawn and then you see it moving. So, excuse me again. So if that stays as the progress bar, it might be handy to have like small numbers, 0%, 25%, 50%, 75%, 100%, so that it starts to look like an affordance again that shows what the progress is. Now it just looks like a circle around the design. So maybe just small text and kind of ruler lines that divide up 0%, 25%, 50%, 75%, or just make it as a more traditional progress bar somewhere else, a more traditional progress bar like you see on Windows installations or something, just something that progresses from 0 to 100% somewhere else on the screen. So that might be a thing to consider as well. And maybe I do like this interface where it's fairly clean and not cluttered. So putting 0%, 25%, 50%, all that might start to clutter the screen, which there's always a trade-off between being very simple and uncluttered versus being intuitive. So there's always a trade-off. So maybe put those up there, but make it as a settings option to disable them if someone knows what it is and they don't want to see that anymore. But yeah. I like this. Again, on the previous video, it took me a little while to figure out that the dot is actually moving relative to the ball bearing. But this is a bright, colorful, really cool machine. This is not bright, not colorful, doesn't look cool at all. It looks just dull and boring and white. Is there a way to bling this up without overdoing it? Maybe this screen tracks the color of this. Maybe there's some way to make that more aesthetically pleasing, more pretty to look at without really overdoing it, over blinging it. But maybe there's something there to make it look less bland. And that's the end of my list. I went through, 15 or so bullets. It's neat to know that there is an update kind of right in the middle of my video. That's good. There's the example of the logo that is different than, now I've done it, different than that one. And in fact, both of them are not clearly identifiable as the logo for Oasis Mini. They're kind of very white, very, monotone or something. It's not real clear that that's a logo. Make it a little bit bigger, a little bit brighter, more obvious that is the company logo, and then make it consistent on every page. I don't know yet what notifications I would get. Does it send me a notification when it's done drawing? I'm not sure. I enabled it earlier today, but I haven't played with it enough to know what that notification actually does. Dark mode should be pretty obvious. Let's see what dark mode looks like. Wow, what happened now? Dark mode is, I don't know what I've done. Dark mode went weird. Okay, well, I don't know what I've done there. Dark mode seemed to break things. So again, this patch apparently just came out, but let's do that again. Let's see if dark mode does something weird again. Okay. No, it's back. So there was a bug there. You guys saw it real time that the dark mode glitch happened, and now it's back. That actually answers some of what I just mentioned a minute ago. That actually, for my eyes, I'm not an artist, but for my eyes, that actually looks a bit more, even though it's still black and white, it looks a little bit more cooler than the pure white background. So, but maybe there's still some way to bling that up, make this look as exciting as that does. This is kind of a pretty thing. It's well made. It's lit up. It's kind of a well manufactured, pretty device. Make this look that way too. And again, branding on this page. This page there is no way to tell what this app is for by looking at this. And almost every other app you open, you get, in some cases, inundated with branding. But on this, make it obvious. Put a link to the web page, put a big picture, of a drawing, or rotating. Maybe every time you launch the app, you get a different picture. A big, bold logo in the front. Something to make it clear that this is the Oasis Mini app. Okay, I am out of my list. I think that's enough for now. Hopefully I didn't ramble on too long. And I would completely be remiss if I didn't give a blatant plug for Puzzometry Puzzles, the hardest puzzle you'll never solve. These are my puzzles that I put on Kickstarter in 2014 and a couple of other years, 17, 18, I think. 7 different puzzles to choose from, laser cut acrylic puzzles, and they're ridiculously really hard. There's only like 14 pieces in them, but I promise they're really, really hard. Laser cut clear acrylic puzzles. Puzzometry.com, Puzzometry.com. Puzzometry, P-U-Z-Z, I can spell it, I promise, Puzzometry.com. Thanks for watching. Adios.